You know what
Backpacking America
is, right?
It's fucking awesome.
It's Backpacking America, an analytical podcast. Get your Backpacking America backpacks, skateboards, mugs, and more from the shop link in the podcast description. Show your support for your favorite podcast that covers local, national, and international news, culture, and more. Moving out? Moving in? Apartment or home in need of detailing? Call Innate Deep Cleaning Services at 845-243-7709 for some of the best home detailing you could ever ask for. Once again, that is 845-243-7709. Alrighty, episode 184. We are here right now to talk about Elon Musk's 41 or 42 or 45, I don't know, it's a fuckload of billions of dollars that he dumped into buying Twitter. This has obviously caused a lot of controversy and celebration from both the left and the right. Why am I talking about it today? Mostly to combat the false celebrations that this is going to usher in a new era of free speech. So I'm not taking the default position of Twitter users where it's like, well, he could have used all that money to end homelessness and food insecurity. Like, obviously, yeah, he could have, but, and he didn't, because supposedly the UN did actually give him a price breakdown of what $6 billion to end global hunger would do, and he didn't do it, supposedly. But we don't operate in supposed here. I'm just putting it out there if anyone wants to do the research, because I really don't want to. Anyway, he buys Twitter. He said basically in his speech, his little blurb that he put out on his profile, that he wants to make Twitter a place for free speech where all users can have all types of opinions because that's how a free society should go. And I agree with him. I feel that social media platforms should be, what's said there should be protected speech, because as we've seen with censorship and what counts as hate speech or harassment or unsafe behavior varies greatly, and sometimes actual harmful content is filtered out, which thank God, but in other cases a lot of people are falsely gobbled up in that. For example, if I recall stories of me getting bullied in high school, being called faggot for like 16 hours a day on Xbox and in school, I'm gonna be, I'll get banned or flagged or whatever because I said a hate word. So I actually have to censor out the word, even though contextually I'm not calling anyone a faggot. That's kind of the issue with a lot of these social platforms. It's something that happened to me actually on Reddit too, where I was talking about that and I got my post deleted because I said faggot. So it's things like that where it's kind of like, really, dude? Like, I can't even recount my experience and use the word that's harmful to, you know what I mean? So in situations like that, it's kind of stupid. Or, say you're just like pushing back against a point of view. You're not necessarily like attacking the person, but you're attacking the idea they're putting forth. It's still seen as harassment or not contributing to a safe space, supposedly. So Musk said he would combat all of that. He's going to allow most tweets to stay up. He would be fine with reinstating Donald Trump's Twitter account. It's, he's going to undo all the liberal crap and the Tumblr-esque viewpoint of Twitter, which, that's valid. I totally am okay with, undoing that, because at the end of the day, like, we can't, they're just going to go, the right has money. The right wing has money. And if they want to, they'll build their own radio stations, their own movie theaters, their own cinema companies, their own social media companies, their own television networks. They have the money, the left doesn't. So that's why the left is like, that's why the liberals, at least the liberals, and even some segments of the socialist left are holding on to like whatever we can, because we don't have the money to finance that. Because we're leasing shit out, not actually trying to get capital to buy our own things. So naturally, they're freaking out about this because, the left side of Twitter wants the control they have, because they don't have a social media platform to actually air their views or social values. On the other hand, the right wing is celebrating because they're like, oh, we're not being censored anymore. We could go tweet. We can go on this and that. Both points of view, I feel, are equally terminally online. And by that, I mean, like, not being able to tweet or getting banned on Facebook, while it is annoying and hurtful in some senses that you can't fully express yourself, you can go out in the street and do that. That's protected. Um, to a degree, now the debate about social media is, oh, like, is this a protected platform? The liberals and the left say no, because it's a private company and they have a right to do with whatever they want. But then again, bakers have to bake gay cakes. Bakers have to bake Muslim cakes. You can't, so the federal government has already restricted private business to what they can and can't do. You can't segregate your private business. You can't say whites only or blacks only. So clearly, the First Amendment equality protections extend into the private sector too. So because of the Supreme Court precedents, and I'm no legal expert, but I'm going to safely assume that Twitter and Facebook actually are violating the First Amendment. So they need to be brought in to the fold and stop censoring people. So the conservatives, in a sense, are correct that, yes, Twitter and Facebook are violating the First Amendment. They can't suppress speech. They cannot discriminate against viewpoints. They cannot, commit, what was it? They can't artificially create a dominant voice on the platform. They have to allow most speech. They have to, because then they're suppressing it. So in a way, the conservatives are correct. But I also don't think that this is going to result in free speech. And the reason why I don't believe this, and this is a thing that, the left will say that I actually agree with. And when I say the left in this, like, I'm also including my own side, the socialist and communist side of things, as opposed to the progressive side. But I'm going to loop progressives and socialists, communists in this when I say the left for this episode only. Also, if you hear background noise, we're getting construction on my house, so bear with me. So the left, like, what we feel is capitalism does not necessarily prioritize free speech. Capitalism prioritizes money. This is a business at the end of the day. Yes, Elon Musk purchased it for a moralistic point of view, but he has to run it like a business. Now, Twitter has been seeing a decline in, membership. So, and that's mostly through the policies of Jack Dorsey and the liberal crap and the Tumblr-esque policies that have dominated the platform to the point where you can't even, like, enjoy Twitter to the full extent, because you'll see some crazy shit like neo-pronouns or whatever, like, out there. It's like, what the hell? Like, you don't want to be involved with that. You say something, you get, like, harassed immediately. Part of the reason, though, why I'm not happy about Musk's takeover of it is for the following. So what did he say? I'm pulling it up from this article I have up. It's an MSN article. Platform more to do. Trolling. Is this it? Prove content moderation. Yeah, all right. So basically, he's gonna go on a crusade against bots and bots and trolls and all this shit. And that's fine. I'm okay with removing bots, but the thing is, a lot of the bots, in reality, there are foreign bots. There are Chinese and Russian bots, obviously, like, but they're fake accounts. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're obviously fake accounts. The CIA does the same thing. There are, during SOS Cuba, a lot of the accounts on Twitter that were saying SOS Cuba, save us or whatever, were created with like a week before SOS Cuba. So that's a weird correlation, and they were all geotagged. I saw something actually, someone on Twitter actually did the deep dive, and they geotagged all those accounts back to Arlington, Virginia, where the CIA is based. So, or it's one of those, maybe it's Langley, I don't know, but it's one of those major military intelligence cities, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just kind of like, oh, all right, like, those are bots. The thing is, it's going to be against foreign bots, not against domestic bots, too. It's not going to be a truly neutral platform, because he's probably going to be given a shitload of money to keep those accounts. you'd be an idiot not to assume that the government has some sort of sway in influencing social media by giving payouts. Um, Also, fun fact: all internet is actually leased from the federal government because the internet was a Navy invention. So the government kind of has some leeway here with what they can do on the internet more than a private internet service provider and the companies that lease space from those ISPs, which lease space from the federal government. So the internet is really just leased and borrowed from the government. It's not actually ours. So here's the thing, too, right? Um, we have that. So he's probably going to be very selective with what bots he censors. And then on top of that, what is considered a bot are people that parrot anti establishment points of view. So, make America great again, people, communists, socialists, certain progressives are all seen as bots because we have varying opinions on Black Lives Matter, on capitalism, on the Russia-Ukraine war that differ from the CNN, MSNBC, the mainstream media point of view. Because we deviate from the mainstream media point of view and we have our own opinion based on our own observation of all the media outlets, all the books, newspapers, and stuff that we read, all the podcasts we listen to, all the foreign news we listen to, we've made different deductions. So because of that, because we as real people think differently than what, the mainstream thinks, so therefore we're in a minority, we're seen as bots. Well, everyone else that I know thinks this way, so you guys don't think that way, so you're not real people. And it's like, clearly we are, because if you look at the account details, it's like, okay, this guy's got, 750 followers, made the account in 2013, and, talks like a real person. Like, this is clearly, not a robot. If you see a bot account, it'll be made, like, within the year, and it'll only tweet about, like, a certain topic, and it has no tweets of its own, just reply tweets, and it'll be like these like manufactured propaganda pieces or like copy and pasted things on different threads. Like, that's how you spot a bot. You know what I'm saying? So when I look at that, right, like automatically when Musk says, "Oh, I'm gonna get rid of bots," I'm thinking, "Oh, great, he's gonna get rid of people like me." And now our free speech is threatened, as always. So that's a reason too, like why a lot of the audience on Twitter, which is the progressive left, the socialists, and the communists, they're all scared because they're gonna lose the only platform. We're gonna lose the only platform we have, because you go on Facebook, it's not like that. Everyone gets banned on Facebook for stupid things. I've been in Facebook jail so many times, like 5 times for nothing. There's you can't go on Reddit. You can kind of go on, but it's like weird. But all the major news outlets are liberal, like not progressive liberal, but like neoliberal, conservative. And conservative. The radio stations are all conservative. Um, the movies are all liberal. So it's like you don't get. For us in the part of the left that are the socialist, communist, and progressive end, and not the traditional liberal end, we don't really have like, we're kind of jockeying for a space. We don't really have an internet presence, an internet space. And that's because our movement typically doesn't have capital, because we're mostly just working people. We're mostly regular people that don't have access to capital. And the people that do have capital, they're not progressives, they're neoliberals. In government, I mean. The people on the right have the government, politicians that have money, have the business leaders that have money, which then invest in programs and social media, things like Truth Social or Newsmax or One American News Network. What is it? ONN. It's One National News Network. I don't know. ONN, OAN. Yeah, One American National News or something like that. They can build all these things. My Pillow. The guy built his own company. Now he influences, politicians and shit. He has that. Breitbart. Steve Bannon has money. They dump money into these websites. So the right is able to have space. We as the left, as a collection of progressives and communists and socialists, we don't have capital. to finance things. We very rarely do. Podcasts are our only option. You know what I'm saying? But that's all disconnected. That's not like a peer-to-peer thing. This is kind of like a non-interactive thing that you can listen to, and it's still valuable, but it's not like a radio station. It's not um a website. It's not a social media platform. So we're now in an existential threat, which is why they're freaking out. Now, why don't I care? Because we've always been at risk and at threat of getting removed. Because here's the thing: Twitter now caters mostly to progressives. It doesn't cater to actual, socialists or communists. That's the difference. It doesn't cater to that. It caters to the progressive left who claim they're socialists or communists, but they're really just liberals, right? Because a real communist actually, gets out to the people and tries to help people and organize their workplace, and they're normal and they have a social life, and we have jobs and we have responsibilities. The progressives are usually college students and high school students. They don't have jobs. They're racked with mental illness. Um, they don't really do anything. They only really go to protests. They only focus on identity and how it serves them, and they identify with a political movement because it serves them, and they have nothing else but that political movement. So they're very radical because they're very radically alone and depressed. That's the difference between a progressive and like a communist, because communists do things, progressives bitch about things. So naturally, Twitter's catering to the progressive market because they just consume mindlessly. So they're always gonna, because under the old Twitter, they're always gonna be there. But the people that are actually organizing their communities and, aren't like hive mindy, they're gonna get pushed out. Same thing with the conservatives, because the conservatives, like the communists, have jobs, have lives, have responsibilities, actually get out and talk to people, actually get out and politically organize. They have goals, dreams, and they don't like what they see, so they're going to just call it out. And they'll be like, well, that's fucking stupid, because at the end of the day, the internet is just the internet. We all view the internet as dumb. So, okay, I'm going to just call this guy an asshole on the internet and leave it. You do that, though, to the progressives, and they'll vilify you because their whole lives are on the internet. For people like me, normal people, when we get made fun of on the internet, it's like, whatever, bro. Like, I don't really care. I'll forget about it tomorrow. I got to go to work, or I got to go hang out with my friends, or I'm going to go to the bar, But you do that to a progressive, they spend most of their time on the internet. They're very lonely people. So you attack them on the internet, and they're going to take it so personally. They're going to, decry it as a crime against humanity and a hate crime. I mean, the ADL even said, the Anti-Defamation League said, Musk's takeover is threatening the safe spaces that, gay people and people of color, need. And I'm just like, dude, like, it's only the people on that app that need it. Most people don't need that shit. You understand? Most gay people don't need the internet. Most black people and Latinos and whatever the fuck don't need that. Most people don't need that. It's the people that are social recluses and embody oppression and pain and illness. They need that because they're sick. They're mentally sick. But the point is that, like, the reason why I don't buy this free speech thing, the whole point is because Twitter needs to cater to a market. It's going to prioritize that market and get rid of the market that, isn't going to give it money. The two biggest markets for Twitter are the progressives and the conservatives. All the other people that use it are regular ass people, and they're just regular users. They don't, they're not cult followers of Twitter. Every conservative I've spoken to is mad about censorship on the internet. Really pissed about it. Every progressive I've spoken to is on Twitter and wants that suppression of the right wing. So, it's going to come down to a jockeying of who's going to be, what group is Musk going to prioritize, or is he going to try and like play this weird game where he appeases both sides of the app, and then, creates this this quasi state where it's like both are kind of happy but perpetually pissed, so they're just going to begrudgingly use the app. So that's the thing too, is like, how are you going to appease both sides of it, because they're both major markets of Twitter. It's the thing that Facebook failed at. Facebook doesn't have I need that. Excuse me while I blow my nose. Sorry, I'm very congested today, guys. Um, but yeah, Twitter. It's gonna be weird to see how he jockeys for that, but I don't see it as a true freedom of speech thing because there's money involved. There's private equity involved. There's no private equity involved in standing out in the corner and advocating for peace, like I do with my local peace group every Saturday. There's no um, private equity involved in organizing a union. There's no private equity involved in talking to your your fellow grad students about forming a grad students union. There's no private equity involved in standing on a street corner and saying no war in Ukraine, no war with Russia, not my country, not my problem. There's no private equity involved in wearing a homemade Black Lives Matter T-shirt. Don't buy the actual ones because you don't know where that's going. Um, I'm going to a thing this Saturday about closing down the Brookhaven landfill. There's no private equity in that, but there is online because everything you post online is monetized, and there's private equity involved with that. That's why I'm not hopeful about Musk saying, "Oh, I'm doing this for free speech." Yeah, dude, sure, like that's your Cassius belly, but your real motivation is money because you're buying the world's one of the world's biggest money making machines, which is Twitter. You bought it for $41 billion. You want a return on investment. You want a return on investment. There is no freaking way that you're going to be able to um, buy that and take the loss for freedom of speech. Unless you're an absolute altruist, which I really don't think Elon Musk is at all. Um, he says he does all this stuff for virtue and stuff. Like, yeah, that may be his motivation, but at the end of the day, he understands he's a businessman. He understands he needs to make money and get a return on investment for it to be worth it, moralistically or not. That's just what he needs to do. So I'm personally not very hopeful about this. And if you really want a way to have your voice heard and really have your voice heard, go out in public and get off the internet completely. Like, don't embody it because you're gonna get your whole worldview is gonna get morphed by this fucking app. And this is the thing too. He didn't talk about, as far as I know, as of today, as far as I know, he didn't talk about changing the algorithm that creates echo chambers and reversing it to where it's like you just run into opinions left and right like you used to on the internet. The old algorithm of the internet was great because it was just kind of like you could post something saying, "Yeah, I think we need to redistribute the means of production." Then the next tweet would be like, "Hey, um, the Second Amendment is the most important amendment in the Constitution." For example, right now, and then say if you liked the thing about redistributing the means of production, you'd only get communist stuff on your page. Getting rid of that would actually help free speech greatly. I haven't seen Musk talk about getting rid of the algorithm that creates echo chambers and only sees things that you want to see. That's dangerous. That's what's really causing all this division, and it's creating this toxic environment on the internet because that algorithm is warping people's perceptions. But it's good for advertisers, and that's why I don't think this is also going to be a good deal, because if he doesn't get rid of that algorithm that prioritizes showing you what you want to see at all times of the day that you demand it, if he doesn't get rid of that, there's not going to be free speech on Twitter. He's going to say, like he's going to create the illusion of it, but there's not going to be actual free speech because getting rid of that algorithm is bad for advertisers and investors. And he wants to get a return on investment on a $41 billion deal. Hate to break it to you guys, but this is not a victory for free speech. This is another, what the hell was it? Not a psyop. This is just another carrot stick moment that we've been fed. It's another Black Lives Matter street. It's another Martin Luther King way. It's not anything meaningful. It's just symbolic. It's symbolic. That's all it is. It's a symbolic change. It's not actually material because until he gets rid of that algorithm and until people actually realize that the internet is not representative of reality, there's no free speech on Twitter. Once again, thank you for listening to another episode of Backpacking America. I'm your host, Anthony Barone. This was episode 184. 185 is airing tonight, actually, with Dr. Christopher Verga. We're going to be talking about Robert Moses. We're going to be talking about Robert Moses and how he has basically designed racism into the very roads of Long Island and several other municipalities around the country. I'm excited for you guys to be there tonight. It'll be around 9:15 p.m. that we are going live on Twitch. And I hope to see you guys there. And, of course, until next time. If you want more Backpacking America content, make sure to follow the social links in the podcast description. New episodes starting and ending your work week come out every Friday and Monday. Thank you again for listening and stay breezy.